Good evening. Namaste, dear friends. Welcome to the 6th class on the Bhagavad Gita. We are studying from the commentaries by Sri Paramhansa Yogananda. Let us begin our class with a prayer. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, Friend, Beloved God, Bhagwan Krishna, Jesus Christ, Mahavatar Babaji, Lehri Mahashay, Swami Shri Yukteswar Ji, beloved Gurudev Paramhansa Yogananda Ji, saints and sages of all religions, humbly we bow at thy feet. Beloved Lord, thou hast designed this life as a struggle for joy all along the way. May I fight to win the battle on the very spot that thou hast placed me. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Let us now invoke the presence of the Gurus by singing the hymn to Brahma, followed by a chant. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Brahmanandam Parama-sukhadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagana-sadrisham Tattvamasyadilakshayam Ekam nityam Vimalam achalam Sarvadhi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Triguna-rahitam Sadgurum Tvam Namami Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhu Cha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravidam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Let us sing the simple chant Bhaj Govindam. Bhaj Govindam, 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 Let's take a couple of moments in silence. Let's keep our hearts and minds open to receive the knowledge, the wisdom, the blessings and the grace that we are about to receive through the study of the Bhagavad Gita. So, my dear friends, we studied verses 4 to 6 from chapter 1 in our last class. And these are a set of super interesting verses. So till now, what has happened is that Duryodhan, on seeing the army of the Pandavas being led by the general Drishtadumna, he is talking to his preceptor Drona, and he is enumerating the warriors and the charioteers and the great generals that are representing the Pandava armies. And he lists down the name of all those warriors. And just as a revision, I will just name the qualities that Yogananda ji said represents these warriors, because eventually the battle of Kurukshetra is right inside us, and all these warriors are our own mental citizens. So just in a moment, we'll just see who these warriors are, which are on the side of the soul. And these are Yuyudhana, which represents divine devotion, Virata, which represents Samadhi, Drupad, which represents extreme dispassion, Drishtaketu represents the power of mental resistance or the yamas, Chekitana represents spiritual memory or smriti of who we really are, Kashi Raja represents discriminative intelligence, Purujit represents mental interiorization or pratyahara. Kunti Bhoj represents right posture or asana. Shebya represents power of mental adherence or niyamas. Yuddhamanyu represents life force control. Uttamojas is for vital celibacy. And Abhimanyu represents self-mastery, which represents the final steps in the Ashtanga Yoga given by Patanjali. So the sixth, seventh, and of course the eighth is Samadhi, which is naturally attained after the first 7 steps are perfected. So Abhimanyu represents Dharana and Dhyana. Sixth step is Dharana and the 7th step is Dhyana. So many people get confused as to what is the difference between Dharana and Dhyana. So the difference is this, that dharana is one-pointed concentration, but it is sporadic in nature. Sporadic means it is intermittent in nature. So meaning that you may be able to fix your attention on a point within your body or outside yourself for a fixed amount of time, but then it comes back to a scattered state of mind. So intermittently, you are able to single-pointedly focus your mind. That is dharana. And by this time, as you are able to single-pointedly fix your attention on that inner quality, for example, let's say you're focusing on peace, or you're focusing on joy or light within. And the moment you're able to feel the presence of peace, joy, and that light, you start to acquire the characteristics of peace, joy, and light. So meaning from the scattered state of mind, you start to feel that, yes, I am feeling peaceful. And not only that, you go a step beyond to say that I am peace. So that process starts at the level of dharana. But still, there may be phases that when you stop meditating, then again, you're back to the scattered state of mind. So dhyana is the deeper and a more advanced stage than dharana, where there is a continuous movement of energy, let's say from the medulla to the positive pole of the Agya Chakra, to the spiritual part. There is a continuous flow of attention. It is unceasing, it is unbroken. Therefore, you can get deeper and deeper and deeper into whatever you are focusing on. So for example, if you're focusing on peace or light, then the energy will continue to flow just like the river Ganga, and it will keep flowing without a break, so that your depth of peacefulness will keep increasing, and you will be able to say in 100% way that not only am I a peaceful meditator, but slowly the I-ness is dissolving and I am becoming peace, and I am that infinite peace in a much deeper and stronger way. And of course, when then samadhi comes, automatically the little sense of I-ness that remains behind is also foregone, and you just dissolved as the Mother Ganga will go into the ocean. Similarly, that the entire prana shakti that is flowing continuously in dhyana from the medulla to the spiritual eye will then rise and go and merge into the ocean of the infinite prana. And so this is the difference between dharana and dhyana. Simply speaking, they are single pointed concentration on one thing, but dharana is an intermittent process and dhyana is a continuous process without a break. So Abhimanyu represents dharana, dhyana, and automatically the devotee then reaches samadhi. Then another aspect, another person or persons that have been labeled in these verses are the sons of Draupadi. So who are the sons of Draupadi in us? So we said that Draupadi represents the Kul Kundalini, or the energy, the basic prana that goes up and down the spine. And eventually the Kundalini has to rise up and meet Krishna here. So as she is wedded to the 5 Pandavas, which represent the 5 chakras, she moves through the entire chakra system. At each chakra system, at each level, she produces an offspring of the chakra. And the positive aspects of these offsprings are on the side of the Pandavas. So for example, in Kundalini moving through the Mooladhara chakra will produce as its positive effect steadfastness or determination on the spiritual path. So the determination and steadfastness is the offspring at the Mooladhara chakra, and that is going to be on the side of the devotee. So as it moves up and crosses the Swadhisthana chakra, then here the power of flexibility of being able to meander, of being able to wisely change course of action is the product when the Kundalini crosses and traverses the Swadhisthana chakra. And then as she goes up into the Manipur chakra, then the power of will, the power of self-control, all of that is the positive offspring of this chakra, and therefore this will also side on the side of the devotee or the disciple. Then as she travels up through the Anahat chakra or the heart chakra, then is the power of love actually. So of course Bhima represents the power to control prana, but the Anahat chakra gives a positive offspring, which is the devotion itself. The power of divine love is produced here, and this is on the side of the devotee. And as she crosses the throat chakra, Vishuddha, here the offspring is deepening calmness and expansiveness. So that is again will side on the side of the Pandavas or our positive side, and all of these sons of Draupadi will help us to win the battle of Kurukshetra, and therefore all of them are on the side of the Pandavas. Okay, so now let's go on to now what happens. This brings us to verse number 7, and I will read that out in Sanskrit, Hindi, and English. Asmakam tu vishishta yetani bodha dvijyotam nayakamam sainyasya sangyartham tantra bhijamte. Meaning in Hindi, हे द्विज श्रेष्ठ, सुनो, मेरी सेना के सेनापतियों में से जो मुख्य हैं, तुम्हारी सूचना के लिए मैं इनके विषय में भी बतलाता हूँ. Listen to, O flower of the twice born, best of the Brahmins, about the generals of my army who are prominent amongst ourselves. These I speak about now for thine information. So Duryodhana is continuing to talk to Drona, and now he is saying, okay, now I am going to tell you who are the generals, the warriors, and the charioteers on our side of the army. And this brings us to verse or shlok number 8. Bhavan Bhishamascha Karnascha Kripascha Simitanjaya Ashwathama Vikarnascha Somadatta Jayadratha. ये योद्धा हैं आप द्रोण, भीष्म, कर्ण तथा संग्राम विजयी कृपाचार्य, अश्वत्थामा, विकर्ण, सोमदत्त का पुत्र तथा जयद्रथ. These warriors are thyself, Drona, Bhishma, Karna, and Kripa, victors in battle, Ashwathaman, Vikarna, the son of Somadatta, and Jayadratha. Okay, so let us understand now who these people are as we fight our daily battle of life. Who do these represent? And interestingly, it's as Duryodhan is, labeling things, it gives us a subtle feeling that there is anxiety in Duryodhana, and material desire is anxious, that so many powers of self-control are standing against it. And as we said earlier, it then is calling on the side of the Drona. Habit and desire will get together, and they are analyzing the situation as to how they can win. Okay. To explain these verses, Master has brought in from Patanjali Yoga Sutras. He says, Patanjali says that the Lord, Ishvara, is untouched by klesha. Klesha is obstacles or troubles, karma or action, vipaka or habit, and ashaya or desire. So he's from Patanjali, he's quoting these, and then he will explain that who represents what. So what are kleshas? When we studied the holy science, Sri Yukteswarji also pointed out that there are 5 main obstacles to self-realization, and these are the 5 kleshas. And what are these 5 kleshas? The first is avidya or ignorance. Second is asmita or egoism. Third is rag or attachment to pleasure. Fourth is dvesha or aversion from pain. And fifth is abhinivesha or tenacity or clinging to bodily existence. So these are the 5 kleshas as explained in our Shastras, also mentioned by Sri Yukteswarji, and now again Master also brings them here. So now he says, correlating these obstacles and principles, we will see which character in the Mahabharata represents what. So we start with Kripa or Kripacharya, and he represents avidya or ignorance. And we know that ignorance at the microcosmic human level is called avidya, and at the macrocosmic or cosmic level, it is called Maya. And ignorance of what, should we say, is our enemy? Ignorance of who we really are, ignorance of our own soul nature, which is infinite and which is eternal. So that ignorance is our enemy. And also, interestingly, the Yoga Sutras and Master and Sri Yukteswarji also says avidya of also what? Of thinking, of wrong perception and wrong conception, taking what is non-existent as existent, taking what is non-real as real, and also reverse. Taking what is really real as non-real. So what does this mean? Don't get confused in this jumbling up of words. So what this means is we think that this world that we perceive through our senses is real, and that the substratum of it, that God or the ultimate reality, that is unreal. That's what we think in general terms, and this we think because of avidya, because we are being reported by the senses, which are very limited in their power of perception. Now the truth is that this world is a delusory, it is illusory. Why? It is changing moment to moment. It has no fixed reality. It is changing from moment to moment. And the substratum of this, the changelessness that is behind it, the Om vibration which is behind it, or the Kutastha which is behind it, which is actually the true reality, but we are not able to perceive it through the senses. Therefore, we land up in this wrong conception and this confusion that this real, which is the Kutastha Chaitanya and the Om, we think it is unreal and non-existent. And on the other hand, this world, which is ever changing and illusory, we take this as real as existent and final. So this is the confusion that we land up because of avidya. So to simplify it even more, let's take the example of watching a movie. So when we are watching a movie, we are so engrossed with the story of the movie, with the audiovisual stimuli, that we forget that the movie could not have been possible without the projecting light and without the screen behind it. But who remembers the screen? Who even thinks that there is a screen behind and therefore I am able to see the movie? So for us, for the time being, we are watching the movie becomes real and the screen is forgotten, or it becomes the unknown or the unreal. The truth is, whether the movie plays or not, the screen is the reality. And that is why whether creation happens or it is withdrawn into Brahman, the screen, which is the Om vibration and the Kutastha Chaitanya, and of course, Brahman itself, or God the Father, the cosmic consciousness, that is the reality. So Om Tat Sat is the reality, and this projected universe is a temporary phenomenon, but we understand it otherwise, and that is why we get lost, and that is why avidya is our very important enemy that needs to be removed. Now, how will you remove avidya? Very, very simple question. Suppose you want to know, you have no knowledge of physics. So introducing knowledge of physics will remove your ignorance of physics, isn't it? Similarly, for art or for craft or for music or for games or for any subject that you do not know or you are ignorant about, you will have to introduce the knowledge of that very subject to remove that ignorance. So suppose you are ignorant of biology, then bringing in knowledge of physics will not help. You have to bring knowledge of biology to remove ignorance of biology. So similarly, here the problem is we are ignorant of our own atman, we are ignorant of our own soul nature. Therefore, the knowledge, the light that banishes this ignorance will have to be brought in. And therefore, my dear friends, we are studying the Bhagavad Gita because it is the very knowledge of the Atman that Sri Krishna is going to relate out to the devotee Arjuna. And we have to bring this light and this knowledge, only then the ignorance of ourself will be removed. And of course, we need the help of the Guru. Without him, we cannot land or reach anywhere. Okay, so the second person in question here is our enemy of soul realization is Bhishma. A very interesting fact before we move to Bhishma is Kripa is one of the persons who survives the war. So after the battle of Kurukshetra, Kripa is still alive and then he makes peace with the Pandavas. So what does this mean? This means that some element of avidya has to be present for creation to continue. Otherwise, everything will merge back into one and then creation will collapse. Therefore, some element of avidya will stay as long as creation is staying, but its power will become less effective if there is knowledge or light of wisdom of self-knowledge comes in. Then its power will be vanquished, but it will continue to stay and will keep affecting all those who have not gained that self-realization. Okay, so the second enemy is, of course, Bhishma. Now, asmita or egoism, we know it is one of the most important enemies. It is a very tough enemy. And considering the fact of the origin, as we discussed in the first class, the descent of spirit into matter. So egoism or Bhishma is the Abhas Chaitanya, means it is reflected consciousness. It is that intelligence through which, when we are in the body and mind, that awareness with which we function in this world. And actually, because the ego comes into play, a separate jiva is formed. Therefore, the world is also formed in parallel reference to the jiva, and therefore the five tattvas or the elements will come into play. Then the five sense organs will come into play. The five organs of action will come into play. The prana will come into play to make the body alive, and so on and so forth. So ego brings in all of this together to create a separate individual. And ego is therefore a very, very powerful force. Okay. Bhishma it is who causes the greatest fear on the Pandava armies, because he's the grandsire of all of them, and of course he is very, very strong. Okay. I-ness, according to Yogananda, I-ness exists at different levels of our bodily existence. So there is this physical body where we have this physical ego. Then there is the astral body where there is the subtle I-ness is identified with the subtle instruments of perception and knowledge. Then is the causal ego or the divine ego. And Master says this is I-ness expressing solely through pure intuitive wisdom of the causal body. Okay. So next, who is the next opponent? The next opponent, we said, what is the third klesha? We said it is raga, and that is represented by Karna. So Karna represents attachment to what is pleasurable, wanting to do what is pleasurable. And it is the principle in the deluded man to which forces the person, forces the jiva to do what he likes again and again and again. And interestingly, we know that Karna thinks that it is his duty to side by Duryodhana. So our likes somehow make us believe that it is our duty to just do that action which is enslaving us actually. And very interestingly, why Karna and Duryodhana have to be together? Because Duryodhana as desire wants more and more sense pleasure, and then Karna as attachment to the actions that give sense pleasure, they both will have to be friends. They both have to give company to each other, so that finally this combination of desire for sensual pleasure and then repetitive action to attain that sensual pleasure has to go side by side. Therefore Karna will be on the side of Duryodhana, and he will proclaim it as its right, as his rightful duty to be on that side. And on the other hand, now if metaphysically, if we consider that this question arises again and again, that Karna was also son of Kunti, and Karna was also, he was the son of the sun god himself, and then why was he killed in such and such a way, why did he have such and such destiny, and so on and so forth. All these questions are asked repetitively. Now why Krishna says that Karna has to be killed is because he associates himself with Duryodhana. So now a very interesting aspect of this is, if Karna was associating himself with the Pandavas from the very beginning, then they would actually, the warlike situation could have been averted. So if your liking or attachment to your good actions is actually towards, let's say, meditation. So if you're attached, if you start to like meditation, and if you are attached to that liking of the meditation, you repeat the activity of meditation, then what happens? Then automatically you are pushed towards self-realization, to soul realization. So therefore, the only important thing here is to understand that your repetitive action is going towards sense pleasure. It should actually go towards soul pleasure. So when we read the Kathopanishad, we find that when Nachiketa is talking to Yama, and Yama is explaining to Nachiketa that there are two types of actions. One is Shreyas and one is Preyas. So Preyas is that kind of action which you indulge in to get pleasure, to something that you like. So something like what Karna represents. And Shreyas is that kind of action which one should do for the highest benefit, for lasting happiness and for self-realization. So we always have this choice between Shreyas and Preyas. And then, of course, whatever happens in our life later will be determined by whether we have chosen either of them. If we choose Preyas, means pleasure-giving activities, we know that the pleasure is going to be short-lasting. We know that the pleasure will be opposed by pain, and we will have to lose whatever we think is pleasurable. And on the other hand, if we do Shreyas, we know that we might have to do some tapasya in the beginning. It is going to be difficult to do in the first place, but then it is going to have nectar-like results, and it will give me long-lasting happiness. So at every point, every decision that you make, you must pick up between preyas and shreyas. Okay. So this brings us to the next opponent, which is vikarna, which represents the fourth klesha or dvesha, that is repulsion from that which is disagreeable. So whatever you don't like, you don't want to do, even if it is your duty. So there are certain duties in our life that we have to perform. We may not like them at the outset, but if we do not perform those duties, then our karma will not be fulfilled for which we have karma. We have to fulfill the karma and dharma for which we have attained this body and mind and personality complex. And unless we do that, we will not be able to cross over and reach to the point of freedom. So before we retire, we have to do job for, so and so many years. So before we can actually find freedom, we have to do all that comes our way as our dharma and karma, whether it is temporarily agreeable or disagreeable. We must do it impartially with a sense of duty and offering it to God, because it is coming from God. Although it is our karma, but of course, God presents to us with such situations that we have to intelligently maneuver through it and do our best in that situation. Okay, avidya contributes a lot in karna and vikarna. So because we have avidya, because we are not able to distinguish between real and unreal, therefore we are also not able to distinguish between what is right and wrong. Therefore, removing avidya will actually to an extent lessen our likes and dislikes and will help us to attain self-realization. Therefore, it is important to bring in the light of knowledge. And on a daily basis, how will you bring in the light of knowledge? So of course, knowledge will also work at two levels. One is the bookish knowledge that we learn. So reading the scripture, listening to the scripture, that is one important aspect, listening to the teachings of the guru. But the real knowledge comes when you have the first-hand meditative experience that you are the peace, that you are the joy. So that the real wisdom dawns there. But of course, you begin with the book knowledge, the spiritual, scriptural knowledge, and then you attain the knowledge of your oneness with the universe. Both are important, and we will have to do all of this to remove avidya and therefore to rise above our rag and dvesha. The fifth opponent that Duryodhan mentions is Jayadratha, and Jayadratha represents Abhinivesha, or our body-bound inclination. So we are so convinced that we are this body, that we do not want to consider the reality that we may not at all be this body, that this body is a mere garment. It's merely a covering, which Krishna will explain later. We are unable to conceive of such a thing. We are unable to accept such a thing, that we are not this body, because we think all the time that we are this body. Such a strong chain is tied to the jiva is so bound to the body that it starts to think that it is the body. And because you think you are the body, then what will you do? You will want to preserve the body. Then if you want, not only do you want to preserve your body, but because the personality and the mind come in, then you want to preserve your name and fame. You want to preserve the money because you think this bodily existence is the only existence. Therefore, you go in for all the wrong things that you will, go for. And then, of course, more and more karma will be created. So this body-bound inclination is going to tie you more and more, will create more and more desire. So it's like a vicious cycle that will be created. So then how do we break this illusion or this bondage to the body? How do we know? So the main method of doing this is meditation. I would say the only method available on this planet which can help you to truly understand that you are not the body, that you are separate from the body, that the body is actually an inert thing which the life, the electricity is enlivening, that you are the pure awareness and the pure consciousness. This knowledge, this perception will come to you with meditation. Therefore, we need to meditate more and more. Longer, deeper, guru-given meditation has to be done more and more. Only then this lock or this chain will be loosened. Because as you keep on meditating, you start to feel your aboveness from the body, that you are, continuous with the universe, that you're not just, your awareness is not limited to the body, that you are the peace, the love, the joy, and the light. Once you start to feel these things in by first hand experience, only then you can reject the body. Otherwise, how will you reject the body? Because the delusion is so strong. You feel the daily pains and pleasures of the body and you think that's it. Therefore, meditate, meditate, and meditate to break the bond, to break the chain which tells you that you are the body. Okay. The sixth enemy is the son of Somdat. The name of the son of Somadat is Bhurish Ravas, and this represents karma. So karma is the action. Now that we are in the body, we think we are a separate individual. Now we are also bound to the body. Plus we have desires like representing Duryodhana. Then automatically we will do something to attain those desires. And just see in the background how avidya is working. Now avidya is telling you that you are this little body and therefore you are incomplete in yourself. And because you are incomplete in yourself, therefore, if you get objects from the outside world or situations or people from the outside world, that will complete you and that will make you happy. So these opposing forces are working so much in sync with each other. One will make you believe of the other of the first one. So these 10, 12 forces, they will work together and they are basically fooling you. And we are getting fooled. No surprise that we are getting fooled, because these forces have a lot of power. But always remember that you are the soul. The power of the soul and the truth of it, the spirit, that is stronger than any obstacle that can arise in your path. Your intelligence as a child of God is greater than any obstacle. You have been given the power of choice, the power of will, the power of discernment, the power to love, the power to decide for yourself, to choose freedom and not bondage, to choose God and not go against him. So at every point in time, you have been given the power. So don't think, oh, these enemies are so powerful. What am I going to do? Take the help of Krishna. Surrender. Call upon him. Do your duty. This battle is meant to be won. If you are on the side of the Pandavas, if you are taking refuge in Krishna, then it is your destiny to win this battle. Always remember, victory is yours. But are you siding with the right attitudes and characteristics and the mental citizens of your own being? Okay. Very interesting thoughts that Yogananda ji has put here. So now karma has begun. So as karma begins, then the cause will be followed by effect, whether we like it or not. Once a cause has arisen, the effect will have to happen. This arising, that arises. This not arising, that not arises. So if the cause will not happen, no effect will happen. If the cause will happen, the effect has to happen. So therefore, because we do not remember what causes we have initiated in the past, and sometimes we have bad situations in our life, so then how do we manage? How do we get out of bad karma? So here, 3 points that Master says. First, he is saying by enduring. So when bad time comes, then you accept, you acknowledge, you increase your level of patience, and you tell yourself, even this will pass. And this is supported by Jnana Yoga, and we'll see how. So then the second thing Master says is you learn from the bad karma, means whatever bad thing is happening in your life, you ask yourself, what am I learning from this? Why this situation has come to me? Or sometimes we say the same situation keeps coming back to me. What is this situation and what is the creator behind the situation trying to tell me? What do I need to learn? So that is the second thing that you do when bad karma comes to you. The third, Master says, is constructively and spiritually working the way out of the effect. So spiritually working how? Then comes the various paths of yoga. So by Jnana Yoga, you analyze that you were never the ego that performed these actions. You rise above egoic identity, you stay with the self or the atman, and there you know that you were never the doer. And that helps to transcend the karma, and also it gives you the patience to endure, the patience to have the fortitude to just go through that bad phase, because that will finish. Just as the good and pleasurable things in life don't last, similarly the bad and the painful things in life also do not last. It arises and it ceases. It's like a wave. Joy will arise and it will cease. Pain will arise and it will cease. All of this will continue to happen. But you, as the Jnani, will stand back and say, I am the witness of the rising happiness and sorrows of my life. I will not associate myself with the vritti of the mind. I will not say, I am happy, I am sad, I am happy, I am sad. I will say that I am witnessing the happy and sad states of my mind. So I will take a step backward and become the saksha or the witness. And from there, I will be less or not affected by the whatever results of karma are coming to me. The other way of spiritually and constructively working out is karma yoga. The way to cancel out negative bad karma is by doing good actions now, by selflessly working for others rather than for egoic self-interests, by giving the doership to God. So by doing all of this, you will, by karma yoga, you can transcend bad results or bad effects. Then the third way is bhakti yoga. By surrendering your life to God, by loving God by one pointed, as Jesus said, but all your heart, all your mind, all your strength, and all your soul. Once you surrender and take refuge with the Lord and you love Him one pointedly, then He takes charge of your life. And once He takes charge of your life, then what happens? As Ma Sharada said, if it is your karma to break a bone, all you will get is a scratch. And all of us present here, I would say most of us present here, have felt the protecting power of God and the Gurus in their life. So trust that. So again, this is constructively transcending your karma. By jnana, by karma, by bhakti, and of course, meditation. Meditation will take you to the truth that you are not this body-bound individual. How will you, by Jnana Yoga, of course, you will say, I am the witness. But the first-hand experience comes with meditation. Therefore, all these 4 yogas go hand in hand. 2 hours in a day, meditate. The rest of the day, practice Jnana, practice Bhakti, practice Karma Yoga. And importance is not to just practice Bhakti, Karma or Jnana, but Yoga has to come in. Means you have to, whatever you do in your body, mind, speech, unite, do yoga with the infinite, means offer it to the infinite. Every action must be offered to the infinite. Your love must be offered to the infinite. All the knowledge that you gain is coming from the infinite, should be offered to the back to the infinite. And the power to meditate also comes from the infinite. So whatever you may do, and you must offer it back to the infinite. And it is then when these paths become yogas. Okay. The next enemy, we have discussed about this earlier, is Dronacharya himself. And of course, we know he represents habits, he represents past tendencies, he represents samskaras. And we know that alone Duryodhan has less power. But when it combines with the impressions of past, then it has a stronghold upon us and it becomes a relatively difficult enemy to defeat. Okay. The next opponent is the son of Dronacharya, and that is Ashwathama. Now, Ashwathama is latent desire. There is a difference between Duryodhan and Ashwathama. So, Duryodhan represents an actively new desire, and Ashwathama represents the seed of desires which is latent in the subconscious mind, which as you go through your life, suddenly you find that a desire which was not there, but because of certain outward conditions, it has suddenly sprung up. From where has it sprung up? It is the seed of those past desires which were either fulfilled and you wanted it more, or they were frustrated, but they were always in the subconscious mind. When the right conditions arise in this life, those seeds will suddenly come up and they will become active and they become a very powerful enemy. Now remember that Ashwatthama killed the sons of all the Pandavas, Draupadi, all the sons were killed. So means all the energy that goes into creating positive children from the chakras can be killed by latent desire. And interestingly, latent desire or Ashwatthama also continues to live after the battle of Kurukshetra. In fact, Ashwatthama is cursed by Shri Krishna that he will neither die, but he will perish all alone. He will stay all alone and he will stay friendless. So what does this mean? So let us say the battle of Kurukshetra has ended. The battle for the devotee has ended, and the devotee has attained self-realization or has attained enlightenment. Then the latent desire continues to exist because it is the power, in one of the powers in the cosmic plan of avidya, but it will not affect the devotee. The enlightened soul is not affected by any latent or fresh desire. So therefore Ashwatthama is friendless. It cannot befriend the enlightened soul. It continues to exist because as long as creation exists and without latent desire, no karma will happen and the cycle will not continue. So it continues to exist, but it cannot affect the enlightened yogi or the person who has attained self-realization. Okay. This brings us to the next verse or shloka, and that is shloka number 9. Anye cha bahava shura madharthe tyakta jivita nana shastra praharana sarve yuddha visharda. अनेक और योद्धा सभी युद्ध में निपुण तथा कई शास्त्रास्त्रों से सुसज्जित मेरे लिए अपने जीवन का अर्पण करने के लिए यहाँ पर उपस्थित हैं. And numerous other warriors, all well trained for battle and armed with various weapons, are here present, ready for my sake to lay down their lives. So Duryodhan continues his commentary to Dronacharya, naming more and more warriors on his side. So this basically is trouble for us. So this means there are so many other more mental citizens which are against our soul realization, which we must recognize and which we have to fight with the help of the powers, the virtues that we have, the army, the generals that was told to us in from 4 to 6 verses. Okay. Now, Yoganandaji explains this beautifully, and he says, when the ego or I consciousness has sided with the materialistic forces of creation, then it develops 6 faults or 6 doshas. And the next warriors are basically naming those 6 doshas. In short, we have all heard them, but this is very important. The first is kama or lust. Second is krodha or anger. Third is lobha or greed. Fourth is moha or delusion. Fifth is mada or pride. Sixth is matsarya or envy. Do these sound familiar to us? Of course, these sound familiar to us because we have experienced the power of these opponents very well in our life. So let us know which character represents what. The first is kama or lust is an aspect of Duryodhan itself, because Duryodhan is material desire, and lustful desire is a consummate enemy, means a difficult to defeat. Now, Duryodhan, remember, is not ready to give even one pinpoint of land back to the Pandavas. Now, when Krishna goes, just before the war, Krishna goes to Duryodhana to settle so that the war does not take place, and asks for only 5 villages or five places, and Duryodhana is not ready to part with even one pinhead of a space of his territory. So this is the power of lust. Once you are in the grab of lust, then you do not want to let it go, because it is giving you the false illusion that this is going to give you a pleasure that is going to be your ultimate goal. So it is all of this false game is happening. We are all, most of us are old enough to have enough experiences in this world to know that there is no single pleasure that lasts forever, that there is no single pleasure which is does not have pain as an opposite. We all by now have experienced this. So therefore, the claims of Duryodhana are all false, but lust is a very powerful enemy. And also let's think of Ramayana, where Ravan represents both lust and egoism. So the combination of egoism, ahamkara and lust is a very, very, difficult to defeat possibility, difficult opponent. Okay, so Master explains in detail what is lust. Lust applies to the abuse of any or all of the senses in pursuit of pleasure or gratification. All of us are familiar with what this means. Now he goes on to say, lust also seeks gratification in wealth, status, power, domination, all that satisfies the I, me, and mine. So not only is lust about sensual pleasure, but lust for power, lust for money, lust for control. Who controls? So think of the wars that are happening right now in the whole world, whether it is Russia, Ukraine, whether it is the Middle East, wherever in the world there is war, there is the only thing is who is the boss, who controls. And that lust, which is associated with, I am the boss, I am the power, I am in control, it feeds this. And this is again an illusion. The downfall has to happen. So therefore, we must be very, very beware when we are going forward for the senses are given to us so that we can functional optimally in this world. But please check if you are abusing your senses in any way, whether it is taste or whether it is hearing, whether it is smell, whatever power that you have, that are you abusing it? If you have gained certain wealth and if you have gained certain name and fame, are you abusing it to create dominion over others? Or are you or we all are using our position to be selflessly in service of the entire humanity, of our brothers and sisters, because all is one in the end. In the end, my brothers and sisters are my own extended self. Am I understanding the truth, or am I caught up with lust of I, me, mine? So that's why Ravan is representing both the I-ness, the ahamkara, and the lust together. Very, very powerful. But know that he can be killed by putting the arrow in the umbilicus. Umbilicus is Manipur chakra. Also in the Mahabharata, representing Arjuna or fiery self-control. Now it is Arjuna which is finally going to put the arrow to Bhishma, which is I-ness. So all of this is related. All of this metaphysical truth, which is our own truth, has been beautifully displayed and portrayed in this form of a story, in whether it is the Ramayana, whether it is the Mahabharata, whether it is the Bhagavad Puran, the Shiv Puran. All of these texts are basically depicting our own inner battles and being, in a form of a story. By the force of its insatiable passion, karma loves to destroy one's happiness. It will also destroy your health, your brain power, your clarity of thought, memory, and discriminative judgment. Therefore, beware, beware, and beware. The next enemy is krodha or anger. Now we know that the brother of Duryodhana, that is Dushasan, he represents anger. And whenever any of our desire is frustrated or not fulfilled, then anger is the next emotion after desire. It comes up immediately. And Master would say that anger has many roots, means it can present in many ways. So what are these many ways? So sometimes it may not necessarily be an aggressive kind of an anger. What else can it be? Master says it can be as impatience. So keep mentally checking in yourself. Do you have any of these forms of anger in you? One is impatience. The other is, of course, violence. The third is irritability, irritation. Then an inner seething, means you're burning inside and you're just restless inside. Then is jealousy. then is resentment, and then is, of course, malicious anger, which leads to violence. So these are all representation of Dushasana or anger itself. And we do have some or all of them to some degree. And eventually our goal is to rise above this. Why? Because Master says, even if anger is supposedly justified, so-called righteous anger, it must never take the place of calm, discriminative judgment and action. So let us say an enemy has attacked you, but getting emotional and angry will reduce your power of action, actually. It will reduce your power of being victorious in the battle. So when the enemy strikes, analyze the situation by calm discrimination and then plan your attack. So this does not mean of attacking back or reacting back to people. So just generally speaking, for example, one nation puts an attack on and attacks the other nation, then does it help for all the people in the nation to get emotional and not plan or not strategize, not be calm? No, it won't help. So whenever an enemy, whether it is an inner enemy or an outer enemy strikes, then you first go into your own calmness rather than reacting with anger. And that is why, if you remember, Swamiji and Master would always say, do not take any major decisions of your life when you are in an emotional or angry state. Why? Because you're going to come to a wrong conclusion. Why? What will anger do? Anger will blind your sense of judgment. And blinding your sense of judgment, it will also give away your discriminative behavior. So your social behavior will change. Your sense of judgment has changed. Your ability to be victorious in a situation has changed. Therefore, Krodh is a very, very bad enemy. Anger is a bad enemy. The third important enemy is Lobh or greed. And here also Master says it is covetousness, avarice, acquisitiveness, and it is a confusion of the mind which can not differentiate between necessary necessities and unnecessary necessities. So when we have what we need, when the needful is present, and then also we keep wanting more and more and more, that is greed. And also, if you have more, not being able to part and share with others is also greed. So covetousness, you keep it to yourself. You don't want to share it with anybody else. You want more and more and more. So, and you want more in number and you want more in variety. All of that continues. And this also is one of the three important causes of the downfall of man. Lust, greed, and anger are called the three gateways to hell. And again, the wars that are going on around the world for control are also because of greed. And Mahatma Gandhi would say, he said it multiple times, that there is enough on this planet for everybody's need, but it is never enough for everybody's greed. And eventually, non-greed is also related to non-attachment. This we have studied in our yamas. The fourth is called moha or delusion. And what is this attachment to delusion? It's the illusory power which makes you believe that this particular action is going to make you happy. And do you know who represents this? This is represented by Shakuni. So Shakuni will allure you into the game. It will tell you, no, come, you must play. This will definitely give you some pleasure. It will keep telling you that. But and you are tempted to do the same thing. The Pandavas were tempted to do this very thing. Now, many people will question that why is Yudhishthir called Dharmaraj when he himself lost his kingdom and he lost his wife and he lost everything. He played the game of dice. Why did he gamble? Now, this goes out to tell us how powerful the game of delusion is. Even when someone of the caliber of Yudhishthir can go down to an extent where he has to go to exile and lose everything, then all of us are subject to the temptations of this world, to the satanic power of this world, the power of delusion, the power of Shakuni, to the game of dice, to all the opponents that have been mentioned earlier. However strong we may think we are, but we are subject to these unless we attain self-realization, unless we attain what Master said is Nirvikalpa Samadhi, unless we know who we really are, that we are the Atman, we are birthless, we are deathless, we are infinite, we are eternity itself, unless that truth dawns upon us, then not only like Yudhishthir, but like everybody else, we are subject to the strong temptations of this world, and there is no safe harbor. And therefore, thanks to the Guru who comes as the safe harbor. When he comes to hold our hand, he asks us to come on his boat or raft, which will help us to cross over the ocean of delusion. Because Yogananda ji himself has said, I will give you good karma. I will give you good karma which will help you to grow and evolve and to attain self-realization. So, but we have to play our part. 25% is the disciples' part, 25% the help of the Guru, and 50% is God's grace. And when we say 25% disciple part, means 100%. Give it your all. Meditate, do good actions, have good intentions, work with the right attitudes, surrender your life to God, have love for all and love for God. All of these things will help, and meditate regularly. Attune yourself to the power of the Guru. He is our raft on the ocean of delusion. Therefore, if we do all of this, then success is guaranteed, as the Gita says and as we see in the Mahabharata. So with that thought, we will end today's class. And we will remember that although there are so many enemies against us in our own mind, but in our own mind, we have so many powerful virtues, and we have Krishna on our side, and whom we have to consciously invite into our life. He is waiting for us so that we invite him personally to help us to fight this battle of life, battle of joy, and we shall win it wherever God has placed us. So, dear friends, with that thought, let us share the power of these teachings with souls everywhere and send healing vibrations by chanting Om 3 times. Let us pray together. Divine Mother, Lord Krishna, Thou art omnipresent. Thou art in all thy children. Manifest thy healing presence in all bodies, all minds, and all souls. Oh, oh, oh. Divine Mother, beloved Krishna, may thy love shine forever on the sanctuary of our devotion, and may we be able to awaken thy love in all hearts. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.